Hi, my name is Sayant. I'm here with Ali Akbar PN. We are here at his first solo exhibition, The Souls of Many Seas. And this exhibition is designed as a museum room or study lab with collected objects, some maps, some paintings, and some images, and some sculptures which are envisioned as some kind of materials with some kind of museological value or ritualistic values. And we would like to take you through this exhibition discussing some of the aspects and some of the elements of his works and his practice and how he creates these very interesting images in his practice. Ali, you have a unique way of using these figures juxtaposed against Kerala landscape, and you have been using it, in many of your works. Like especially in this video, you have used it, and in this particular work also you have used it. And there are like so many works, like we can see that some familiar geographical space, but in totality, it gives a very dramatic feeling to it, and it also gives a sense of history. So where is it coming from? Where is this thought coming from? And when did you start you doing this kind of juxtaposing images and completely different images and making some kind of image?
Yeah, every time in my practice, I am collecting the photographs basically. Then I am arriving my work mostly from my village and where I based in and raised up. And in that landscape is mostly is the two edges basically. The one is the coastal line and one is the backwater. And the both places are in the very subaltern and the working class kind of places. So when I am thinking to capture the landscape or the geography, so I really want to that essence of people who are involving more into that land. So then I am going to place the some specific figures and the things. It should be have to be connected with the people. So I wanted that kind of area. The heritage, what I am talking, is in the center of that kind of geography and the people's neighborhood and the livinghood.
Also, you have started making sculptures, and you have expanded your practice into sculptures, and you have used this particular wooden sword with this particular work. And they do make some connections. There is a war figure and there is a sword, but this one particularly looks like an object of worship or something related to rituals. ഒരു റിച്വലിൻ്റെ പാർട്ടായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഒബ്ജക്റ്റ് പോലെ ആ ഒരു സെൻസ് ഈ വർക്കിനുണ്ട്. സോ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ ഒരു എന്താ പറയുക ഈ ഒരു കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് കണക്ഷൻ, ഹൗ ഡു യു മേക്ക് ദിസ് കണക്ഷൻ ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ദീസ്? what is the what is the context of what is the context of using this sword?
Yeah, for me, the usage of the sculpture is like more into that the sense of heritage, the things we are seeing in the monuments, in the museum. Every time we are focusing mostly onto that, the something, because it has the some volume or the form or something, the evidence, that kind of thing. So I wanted something to related with the image. So that's why I'm entering more into the sculptural practices. I'm thinking like that. And so I want to display like also like that. It's like the some museum pieces or some evidence. In this particular work, I am putting is against the particular some image. It's like that's I took it from my area, and there is some particular images like the war animal. So it's like the some marching or the military, and it is based on the some like the power or dominance or the some violence. So generally it will be other with the that kind of image, the context, this sword, because it's basically also using for the military purpose or the power or the dominance and the things, because sword also default that kind of purpose kind of thing is there. But here I am placing is little bit different, because it's not in the medium of the exact sword, like it's not in the metal, because it's in the wood, because it's already left that purpose default the sword have. So it's later become the something is the more ritualistic practices that way. So because this wood is very dominant in this culture, when you are looking, it's only have the form, it doesn't have the purpose. It's like
In your earlier works, there were isolated figures mostly, and they were either, they conveyed a sense of loneliness, fear, isolation, and things like that. But in your recent works, like, we see, this massive crowd, either around, religious spaces, or participating in some kind of public festivals. So, how do you look at this? How does the change happen? Like, how, your use of, depicting people against architecture or the crowd. How do you like to, you know tell us about that?
Yeah, because I feel like every time have my work that kind of vulnerable position of something and being alone. And I feel like in those work that the composition wise it's working something metaphorically. It's like that loneliness or something like that. But I feel like coming to this particular work, this also have the same feeling. I feel like very personally. So because it's also feel like the very vulnerable in the middle of something. Because this particular work, I just captured that particular moment. So when I was in that moment, it's very crowded, but I also feel like that vulnerable more because when I visited this moment that time, because I am middle of that possession and this much of crowd, but I feel like that vulnerability is becoming the more strong and the strong. And this festival happens, the city marks the people their presence, but their vulnerabilities exist still as the same. So these people imagine and think to survive themselves too and try to believe we are together, there is lots of people together, but we can believe that much of things, we are in the position of vulnerable because we can't live that kind of thing. So both of the works, I feel like very personally it's a very similar work because of that terms of vulnerability and the positions.
Like how sea is present in your work, there is a continuous presence of rivers as well. And in this particular work, the river of Vatrak, it looks like there are some kind of expedition, and there is a route map sort of an image associated with it. So how do you look at this, the presence of sea and river, and the people and the history of the river, and all these things, like, come together in your work?
Yeah, in my work which I am depicting the sea, it's like the sea is very dominant in the terms of the vastness and the size. But in most of my works, I didn't depict like that. It is something in the far like the very strip or something. In the most of the works I composed like that. The sea is there, but I am not showing is the vastness of the sea. Because for me it's like some kind of a gateway kind of feel I needed. And those works are mostly focused in the Kerala basically, the South India basically. My initial work, I started with the Kerala basically. So the sea thing was the very much into that thing. Then after that, I am entering to this work because this is not that much of in the coastal strip. Because that's the works mostly I am referring is like the more into the coastal strips basically. So sea was the very dominance in there. But whenever I am shifted to the Baroda, Gujarat, then I am more into going to the inland kind of things. So, and the Gujarat, I feel like was the very melting point of the sea and the inland, the land-wise history and the sea-based history. The Gujarat, I feel like it's in the very melting point of these two. So I am thinking more into that way. In the initial works, I am mostly referring the terms basically used in the Kerala, basically. So whenever I am coming to this work, into the Gujarat basically, then I am mostly exploring the myth and the stories which are dominant still in the culture and the people conversation and the people mind and everything. And in the practice of the image making, like same as the images I created in the Kerala, because the same way of the process, it's working with this kind of context also. So like as the earlier works, I am also taking the photographs from the specific area, then I am creating the image digitally. It's with the pieces of the different images. I am collected from the archival images, archival source, because I am referring the particular time. So I have to be clear about the dresses and the things, what is the feature was that time. So I am collecting lots of archival images, and I am cutting like the small pieces, like the eyes, the nose, the dress, and the hands, the leg, everything. So, and I am creating the one man or the horse. It's like the one individual person. The person have the identity like as a man, but I created with the collection of the multiple identities from the sources of the archive. So metaphorically, it's also working like that. So for me, it's very interesting process, because as we developed as a human, because of the collection of the multiple identities, the image also metaphorically is working like that, because it's collection of multiple identities to substituting the one single man.
This is a very interesting work in this entire show. This is one of my personal favorite works, and this has a very interesting use of the figure of lion, like which is a very familiar, very dominant figure of lion, which you have used as some kind of a project or building, that statue of that lion, and then you have a broken sculpture, and you have a very roaring lion, which is kind of symbolically attributes to this, the anchor and dominance and power. And then there is a completely different image of where they are, or where the people are dismantling this lion. Reminds us of some of the recent events of cancelling some of the colonial figures, some of the problematic figures from the history. So how do you conceive this work? How do you look at this this entire narrative, and how did you create this entire narrative of building this lion and destroying the lion? Can you take us through the process of making this particular work?
Yeah, later in my work, it's like more into this kind of dominant or the ruling, that's kind of heritage and the histories, those all are coming. Like in Kerala context also, I'm referring something, and it's also coming some war animal images. And in the Gujarat also, when I am taking the some myths or the specific incidents and everything, it's like it was becoming the very dominant in the works, those images. In later, in the colonial time, it's excavating and retaking the sculpture. Then it's become the national identity of the Iraq, the new state. Then it is mostly related to the proud the people had in their heritage, and it was the very classic symbol in that. So, but in the later times, it's become in the question of something like the ruling and the dominance in the later politics. It's become like that.
Like paintings, photographs, sculptures, and digital prints, you have been making books as well, the painted or printed books. And how do you look at this idea of book making as an art practice, and when did you start making these books? Yeah.
When I am thinking about the book making, because I started this practice from my master's time, so I am talking about the very layered kind of things, and I just have to be the few frames and the something beyond my composition also. I really wanted, because in the video work, it is like the everything I was just planned, and the people perceiving the things what I am just composed. It's like that. But in the book practice, not in this book, but the initial some books I did like that. The pages will be in the 2-3 pieces. So I am just composing the particular one image, but it have the 2-3 layered kind of thing. So if we are just flipping the page, it's like the overlaying the another image, and it is giving the different sense of something beyond my intention. It's like that. And coming to this particular work, because it's mostly entirely about the architectural elements, because I also initially did the one painting. It's like the 2-3 architecture images together, and it's the same kind of idea I'm trying to apply here basically, because I'm taking the architectures from Gujarat. It's like when I went to Gujarat, it's like some sort of a stereotype breaking. It's like that because the architecture style, it's like it is the Persian or Islamic architecture style, which I was seen in Kerala is like mostly in the religious spaces, in the mosque or the dargah, this kind of spaces. But I came to the Gujarat, it have the another layers there because I see in the university building, the secular kind of building also have the same architecture style. Even temples also share the same kind of style. Sometimes we can't understand this is temple or mosque. It is that kind of heritage was there, that kind of layers was there. In the particular some images I was using some temple parts along with the thing because it's not that much of recognizable. It is mosque or the temple or something. This kind of shared heritage or shared space I am mostly focusing on.
The exhibition Souls of Many Seas on view till August 20th, and we would like to invite all of you to have a visit at the exhibition and see the works, like see the really interesting works done by Ali Akbar PN. Thank you.